Hello and welcome. I'm Mariam Saab. We've got an eye on Africa for you. Our top stories from the continent tonight. Army vehicles have been reportedly sighted near Zimbabwe's capital, stoking fears that an unprecedented rift between the country's army chief and the president may come to a head. Deadly forced evictions make life a misery for waterfront communities in Nigeria. That's according to a damning new report from Amnesty International, who are calling on authorities to end the unlawful campaign. And travellers flock to Chefchaouen in northern Morocco to marvel at its brilliant blue buildings. Well, the town is now opening up its palette to strokes of green, painting a new picture of ecological sustainability. But first, witnesses say they've spotted tanks heading in the direction of Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. While it's routine for military vehicles to take that route, it's the timing that's raised the alarm. Zimbabwe's army chief, Constantino Chiwenga, has been accused of treasonable conduct by the ruling Zanu-PF party this Tuesday, after he threatened to have the military step in and calm political turmoil a day earlier. Well, this after President Robert Mugabe sacked his deputy last week, accusing Emerson Mnangagwa, long thought to be his successor, of plotting to take power. Well, for more on this story, let's now cross to Oliver Matthews, standing by for us in Harare. Oliver, thanks for being with us. Now, the latest report suggests that the military are outside the capital. What have you seen or heard?
Well, there's been lots of rumours, and they've been difficult to verify. We heard the first claims of some movement of military vehicles shortly after midday today. That was on the Loma Gandhi Road between Harare and the northern town of Chinhoyi. A Reuters journalist saw 2 tanks, and there were unconfirmed reports of several others. I have to say, though, that since that time, we have not heard very much at all. The traffic in Harare was totally normal this afternoon, though I have just heard late this evening that some tanks had been seen in a suburb of northern Harare. I haven't been able to verify that myself. Of course, we don't know what all this means. Is Mugabe tightening his grip on the country? Who's moving the troops around? Is it a training exercise? Is it something more ominous? What I do need to stress, though, is that this is taking place over quite a long time. The first military movements were seen 11 hours or so ago.
Well, what we do know is that there is an open rift now between the army chief and the president. What does this mean for Mugabe's power base, and who might be next in line to take his place?
Again, it's difficult to say. The influential youth wing of Mugabe's party put out a statement this morning. That was from Kudzai Chipanga, a young and very vocal supporter of the president, and of course a supporter of his wife Grace, who's tipped to become the next vice president. And what they said, the youth, was that they were ready to die for the president, and they said that they are sizable in number. They say they've got millions of supporters. In the meantime, Mugabe's ruling Zanu-PF has also reacted to what the army commander said on Monday when he threatened to step in to stop purges from happening in the ruling party. We saw that reaction from the spokesperson, Simon Kayamoyo, this evening. He said that the commander's words were treasonable. It is clear that there is a rift between that army commander, Constantine Chiwenga, and the president. What we don't know is who the lower ranks of the army support. Do the ordinary serving soldiers support Chiwenga, or don't they? Do they actually support Mugabe? That we don't know for sure.
Well, on the topic of Grace Mugabe, over 100 senior officials allegedly supporting the former vice president have been put down for disciplinary measures by a faction of the party led by Grace Mugabe. Now, how far-reaching is this alleged purge?
The purge isn't visible yet. We do know that there are these names, and some of them are very high-ranking officials, ministers and the like. The former finance minister's name is on that list. Now, of course, we don't know how immediate a purge will be. In the case of Joyce Mujuru, the former vice president who was pushed out of power in 2014, we saw the purge take place over several weeks or even months. Officials were dismissed. very publicly, a few at a time. While will the same thing happen again now, or will some of these officials only lose their positions during primary elections for next year's polls? That also seems likely. Of course, attention will be on Zimbabwe very closely over the next few days as Zimbabweans try to make sense of recent events, and we'll be watching this very closely.
Oliver Matthews, thank you very much for that update from Harare. In other news from the continent under tight security, Kenya's Supreme Court has started to hear petitions challenging President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election in a repeat presidential poll. Now, they were lodged by a former lawmaker and two human rights activists who argue that the outcome of the October vote is void because the election board failed to hold fresh nominations after a poll in August was overturned. Now, in a setback for opposition leader Raila Odinga, who boycotted the latest poll, the court ruled this Tuesday that his coalition cannot take part in the review. Next, according to a new report by Amnesty International, tens of thousands of people have been left homeless, 11 dead and at least 17 missing since March of 2016 after they were violently evicted from poor waterfront settlements in Nigeria's Lagos state. Now, the rights group is calling on authorities to end the unlawful campaign. Many more people are still at risk of being strong-armed by security forces and unknown armed men who are clearing the area for development projects. Our correspondent in Lagos, Anna Cunningham, explains the human cost of this megacity.
Amnesty International says that since 2013, at least 50,000 people have been forcibly evicted from their homes here in Lagos. It's estimated that about 70% of the population here lives in informal settlements. Now, this report by Amnesty International released today details those forced evictions. It focuses on one that happened last November on the waterfront community of Atodobame. Eyewitnesses there describe seeing armed men using tear gas and bringing in a bulldozer close to midnight at the time to destroy their homes. They also set light to them afterwards as people fled. The victims say that they came back a few days later and it was then that they saw the bodies of some people floating in the water nearby, including that of a pregnant woman with her baby strapped to her back. Amnesty International says that these are not isolated cases, but what it's calling for is the immediate halt of these forced evictions from today. And it wants the Lagos state government and the Nigerian authorities to recognise that housing is a human right for all. Anna Cunningham, France 24, Lagos.
And finally, if you're travelling through Morocco, you can't miss Chefchaouen. It's pretty as a picture. Tourists flock to the northern town to marvel at its brilliant blue buildings. Well, now they're about to get a green makeover, painting a colourful picture of the town's move towards an ecologically sustainable future.
For decades, tourists have flocked to this hillside town in northern Morocco to take in the striking blues of its buildings. In recent years, city officials have been busy adding hints of green. In 2010, the city council voted unanimously to transform Chefchaouen into an ecologically sustainable town. With backing from the European Union and several NGOs, the mayor says they're well on their way.
I can
say that Chefchaouen has a desire to become an ecological city. We are still in a transition phase, but at Moroccan and African levels, I think we're among the most advanced towns in this respect.
Aziz, a local council employee, does his part, whizzing around town on an electric bicycle as he performs building inspections.
The electric bicycle was delivered to us by the municipality of Chefchaouen to preserve the environment and at the same time to help us visit the sites and monitor them.
One such site is a newly inaugurated municipal swimming pool powered by solar energy. Nearby, an ecology center built from recycled containers showcases the town's green projects. And an energy information center educates the public about conservation. With solar and wind farms, electric buses, and a ban on plastic bags, Morocco has been forging ahead with environment-friendly policies over the past few years. In a country devoid of hydrocarbon resources, the aim is to increase the share of renewable energies nationally to 52% by 2030.
Well, that's all for this edition of Eye on Africa. We'll be back in 45 minutes with more updates from the continent. Live from Paris continues next. Do stay with us here on France 24.
With a 6.6% growth in 2016, the Republic of Guinea is taking off thanks to its mining resources, its hydraulic and agricultural potential, its youth, and its tertiary sector. In order to present its national plan for social and economic development and over 50 projects for its inclusive and sustainable growth, Guinea welcomes all its partners to Paris on November 16th and 17th.
Down to Earth, presented by Merit Dundas.
The Arctic is going to be exploited, and the scale of this exploitation will only grow.
We have a beautiful planet, we need to protect it, and we can use space exploration to better understand it.
Now we've moved from, is that real, to what do we do about it?
Join us on Down to Earth as we explore the incredibly complex relationship between humans and our planet. We're here to ask the difficult questions and find answers that may just surprise you.
Down to Earth on France 24 and France24.com.